If you take half of the disciplines you study at the university, like a lot of them are bullshit.
Don't tell me what you learn,
Yeah.
show me what you can do or what you've done in the past.
IT industry is changing extremely fast.
Why in the school are not taught to be an entrepreneur?
We're gonna train people to be employees, and that's what the educational system does.
If I don't like you and if I don't see you around me and enjoying working with you, we're not gonna hire you.
Why are you switching your jobs?
I don't believe more meetings is going to solve it.
You're judged how good of a manager you are based on how well you manage people.
It's important to build everything on trust and transparency.
Are you really an architect if you're just prompting your way into it and you haven't done the so-called manual work?
AI is definitely changing the way we work,
Do you have any fear?
being just like everyone else.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of VUnstaged, the After Hours edition with another special guest, somebody I'm meeting for the first time. The beauty about meeting people for the first time is you find out a lot of interesting people from Moldova, and that's why I invited him. So if you can tell us your name, what you do for a living, and I ask this everyone, what's your story behind how you got into tech? Because everyone has their unique, interesting story, like they bought a gaming PC, they played some games, and they instantly knew that they fucking want to do software engineering and whatnot. So what's your story behind that? But first, your name and what do you do for a living?
Hello, Steve. Thanks a lot for invitation. Truly appreciate it. Happy to be here. My name is Oboroceanu. How did I end up here? I started my
I
career.
invited you.
Yeah, what I do here.
Yeah.
So I come from NGO and volunteering background. I've studied in the United States, returned here, got the bachelor degree in law, and somehow I got into recruitment. So I did that for quite a few years. Afterwards, I moved to IT, also with recruitment and headhunting. And over time, I start to take project management tasks, operational roles, and so on. So yeah, here I am. Happy to be here with you.
Yeah. What's your story behind? Was it law? Because you mentioned law. Is that how
Yeah,
you got into
exactly.
interesting transition? Because I've seen that on the LinkedIn. I was like law, and I think I've seen that you still practice. Do you practice law to the day?
Yes, I am a legal advisor at the NGO Keushain Law Center. I help there in my free time with legal advices and drafting legal documentation.
Interesting. So what kind of law you're practicing? Is it does it have to do with financials and stuff?
No, it's just general law advices,
Oh, I see. I see. I
tips
see.
and tricks how to properly write the documents, reports, and so on.
Interesting. Interesting. I think I know my go-to person when it comes to law.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because the Moldovan law can be interesting sometimes, like interesting to interpret when it applies, how it applies, and whatnot. And yeah, I was just curious whether or not you still like managed to do both, like apply the law or practice the law as well as do the headhunting and stuff like that.
In my free time, because I'm full time employed in an IT company who does performance digital marketing, like Facebook ads, Google ads. But in my free time, I'm helping the NGO Keushain Law Center with my expertise in law and jurisprudence.
Yeah, interesting transition. Like this is, I think, the first time I hear somebody transition from that to like the IT industry and whatnot.
But let me tell you something.
Yeah,
Having general law knowledge is useful in any industry or field where you work or practice because it gives you a different perspective and a different lens on how to view on things and so on. Yeah.
yeah, like the very basic thing, which I am 100% ready to say that, like, if you take the smartest people on earth, which are software engineers, a lot of them are really smart, but they don't fucking read the contract. Like, start there. Read your fucking contract and know what you're signing up for.
Don't go with a thing. Oh, just sign here. No.
Yeah, I've seen some contracts in my life, and it was like I started reading more of contracts and stuff like that, like legal documents, after I obviously got into being involved with it myself, like opening a company and whatnot. But also, like when you start doing contracting and stuff like that, you have a different kind of contract. It's not the usual employee contract, and you start seeing a lot of crazy shit. Like of course, companies may choose not to enforce those things, but if you sign up for that, then you might potentially be a victim of a company abusing the law. So yeah, you mentioned something very interesting and important, I would say. Um, right. Before we dive into topics, it's. I know it's winter. We're recording this in the winter, and we also have a bunch of wine on the table, so it smells like wine in the air. So I think it's time to do the proper introduction of the show because it's after hours. We love to spend the time doing some wine and stuff. We have two different, well, they're kind of different, but also kind of the same. We have Roșu Împărat and Negru Împărat. One of them is Vitească Neagră, the other one is Sauvignon or whatever. So yeah, the tradition of the show is you pick a bottle at the end, but nevertheless, we poured some Roșu Împărat, I think. So cheers to you. I'm really happy to see you on the show and cannot wait to meet you and talk about a bunch of stuff.
Cheers and
Cheers.
salute.
Yeah, yeah. Good stuff. I'm wondering what's
Yeah,
the
it's
percentage of
tasty.
alcohol. Yeah, yeah, I like the fruity. It's not just the grapes, but something else in addition to that. Yeah, so walk me through, because like, yeah, I'm just curious because your typical average person who got into IT is typically somebody either from university or like you don't see a lot of people transitioning from other fields, let's say in the past 10 years. This is like an education, a discipline. You like go to the university, you know that you want to, like, you're specifically targeting IT companies, IT sector and whatnot, because this is popular. This is a huge chunk of the country's GDP and whatnot. So it's obviously a very popular field to be involved in. So if you can walk me through like your story, like what exactly made you choose this, I guess, outside popularity.
Okay, look. So I've won. Let's start from the beginning. I've won the Flex scholarship 10 years ago. I studied for one academic year.
Flex.
Flex, yeah.
I think I applied to that stuff too. It was in high school, I think. It's a high school program.
Yeah, for one academic year where they
Yeah,
pay you
and
scholarship.
they didn't choose me in the end, but I was like, it was like my dream to go there and like study 1 year in the high school. So was it that was the program you went?
Yeah.
Okay,
That
okay.
was the first time in the States because I've been like 4 or 5 times with different purposes, but we'll go to there. So look, I was very happy when I won the Flex scholarship, and when I was waiting for results, my dream was either to go to Alaska or Hawaii. Hawaii. Guess what? I went to Alaska for 1 year in the central Alaska, Fairbanks.
Yeah.
It was fantastic experience. I would definitely go there.
I heard people do their fucking weddings there. I'm not sure about Alaska, but Hawaii for sure.
Yeah, people with lots
yeah.
of money, why not go there?
Yeah.
So I skipped one grade. From 11th grade, I went to be a senior. I've got my American diploma, returned back, straight to university. You see, here is an interesting point because when you're very young, uh, you don't have that much time to think what I really like to do in life. So you just go with some popular opinions or choices. Well, I must admit that I really like law. However, I would give some advice for our audience. You know, there is a popular thing in US and even in Europe where they take a gap year. For instance, 1 or 2 years. Why is that? It's very important to take some time to discover yourself. What you really like. What would you like to do? How would you like to build your career?
Yeah.
That's why they go somewhere. People from the States, students, they go to the Europe. They volunteer, they work somewhere in order to find their true interest and passion. And afterwards, when they're ready to settle, they pick a career, they go to a specific school or university in order to find out what they really like. Well, back to the law part. I got the bachelor, then the master degree in law. I would really say that this knowledge helped me and shaped the way I am today. Regarding working, I started to do volunteering and work stuff when I was very, very young at the NGO Căușeni Law Center.
Yeah.
based on that, I got the chance to participate in 20 plus international projects. I don't know if you heard about Youth in Action,
Yeah, I think
Erasmus Plus.
yeah.
It was, I'm not sure how is the situation today, but it's an amazing chance to travel in Europe, in
I
Asia.
think I read some news like recently that they restarted this flex program because they paused it for a while and then restarted it again.
It's kind of tough right now with
Yeah, it's
not
kind of
even
tough with in general. Like America has taken this America first stance, and we even gotten like yesterday. I think there was the news that Moldova was included in the list of 75 countries, which
visa.
yeah, not all visas, like immigrant visa, meaning you can't really process green card visas. So for anyone who's applying, they can still apply, but it's not likely that they're gonna have to process your application. So yeah, it's a bit tough right now, I would say. But definitely back in the day when Flex was popular, it was like my dream thing to like, okay, I want to go there. And I think you had like a family host and whatnot. They would just host you. I'm not exactly sure how the experience is. I'm just aware of what other people told me, which have been in the program. So it was obviously like a dream back in the day, but yeah, it's a really amazing experience.
So yeah, I returned home, went to university. While I was studying, I was also working at a company part time with operational stuff, also processing documents for visa. It was regarding the work and travel program. So I was preparing the students in order to get their visa, how to pass the interview with a potential employer, and so on and so forth. Afterwards, I started looking for a job. So how I started was the recruitment. Not necessarily, it was not an IT company. So, but you
So
have to.
you're looking for a job in recruitment.
Yes,
Yeah,
I started with that.
you're looking for a job, how to get other people jobs.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a good way to start. Even like
No,
some
definitely,
tips and
definitely. Yeah,
tricks with recruitment. It's always a good way to start because even look with all of this AI hype,
we'll
uh,
get into that too.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get to there. But anyway, you need people to process the. You can have lots of programs, CRM, ATS software, yeah, but will sort all the candidates. But you still need the human side, the people who will call, who will do the interviews, and who will propose the job offers. So I started with the recruitment, and slowly I was moving to the project management because you have some levels that after you pass you're ready to take on more responsibilities, more tasks, and that's the way. Afterwards, for the first job I applied, but the last two of one I was headhunted on the LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I would say should definitely be there, be present, be visible, not only when you're open to work, but from time to time because
Is there
frequency
is there
matters.
anyone not open to work on LinkedIn?
Uh, right now the number increased.
Yeah, it's tough right now, I would
It's
say.
very tough.
Yeah, because you got I would say you got a fucked up market. Part of it is AI. The other part is the crashing economies, especially in Europe. The other part is the layoffs, which due to like part of it is due to AI. The other part is due to the whole inflation, which we inflation in personal. I mean, like you take Twitter for instance, a lot of inefficiency there, and then everyone else kind of said, okay, let's look for inefficiencies, and it kind of became popular to fire people and to lay
But
them off.
lots of international companies like Apple,
It's enough.
Google, Amazon.
That's the point. It's enough for these sharks to like begin the wave, and then everyone else will follow, even like the smallest companies, down to even the weirdest point where you have companies that just do it for doing it. You know, they do it for just freeing up a position, which then they can use as a marketing strategy to promote themselves in the sense that they're looking for jobs now, and they they have a way bigger pool of candidates. They can actually leverage smaller wages, because when you have a lot of candidates, all of a sudden there's a huge request for jobs. As a result, the price decreases because there's a lot of you developers and there's less of us employers. So we can just say you actually deserve less. And yeah, it's a rough market. So
Economy, supply and demand. So yeah.
Yeah. So I was wondering, what's your opinion of, let's say, the market, the IT market? Because I'm not exactly sure when did you get into the IT market, but if you did get into IT market before, let's say, 2019, and let's say after 2022, when the whole AI, the whole chat GPT thing started revolutionizing the way we do things around the world, what's your opinion of the market back then, prior to AI slash COVID, and then the market after that?
Well, first of all, thank God I got in the IT before the COVID and
Yeah.
before ChatGPT and all of our these buzzwords and buzz programs. Look, I would say that right now it's very tough. I would not say impossible, but for juniors, you have to be exceptional or very talented
Yeah.
to get the number of jobs available of a marker significantly decreased. The salaries are put on freeze right now.
Yeah.
There are less jobs. There are plenty of candidates on the market right now, which gives the higher upper hand to the employers because they can be picky with the candidates that they go. So yeah, I would say that the market right now it's very tough to get in, but most importantly, for the people who are still in the market, it's important to stay above the water, to be flexible, and to be in the game.
Is this a bluff? Like, for instance, like you still need people to sustain the IT market. Like the demand is higher than ever, even with all the automation, all the AI, and everything that's happening in this space, right? At the same time, yes, that is true. AI tooling and automation can do a lot of what juniors used to do. We no longer need to babysit juniors because we can just tell this fucking agent, hey, do this and that, and we're going to correct and babysit it as if we did it with like a junior. Problem with that is you don't increase your let's say your hands, your manpower, right? You have the same exact manpower. All you're doing is trying to automate some stuff which you would have done otherwise by babysitting a junior. So you mentioned this interesting idea of you being happy that you gotten into it before the whole shit went to hit the fan. Is it part of it because it was easier? The let's say the bar for entering the market was smaller, or partly is it also because you actually were involved in an era where people were still using their brains, people were still trying to learn the hard way, bang their head over the wall, try to go over obstacles? Like back in the day when you didn't have AI, you had to go read stuff, you had to go research stuff, you actually had to do the effort. Now you can just now you don't even need to leave your prompt. You can just spend all the time inside ChatGPT. If you're a developer, you can spend the time inside a code or text editor, uh,
Vibe coding right
vibe
now.
coding your way into things. You can build stuff extremely quickly. There's obviously downsides to that, but that's not the point. The point is you're not leaving the space and the comfort zone, and you have the best friend next to you, the best advisor. There's no such thing as a stupid question. You can ask anything, you can be validated upon everything. So then you look around and you ask yourself, are people as a result becoming dumber because they're no longer involved in the let's say use and practice of critical thinking skills as it was back in the day? Like, what's the primary reason why you say you're lucky in a way to have gotten into it faster?
It was much easier. The standards were lower for that time, and there was a demand on the market. So right now, the standards are much higher. Like even for a junior, you expect him to know how. Like right now, you expect someone when he comes to you, not to come with a problem or complain, but hey, look, I did my research. I came with three potential solutions. I still can't figure it out. So hey, let's sit down together. Let's see how we can figure it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now it's any question. It's only one prompt distance, but one important part is that you need to know how to do the prompt engineering, how to write the prompt properly, because Uh, Smart people will use it more efficiently. They will become smarter, faster. Um, while the dumb people, I don't think they'll ever bother with. They say, "Oh no, this tool will not replace me." Well, you know.
Yeah, I think like at least when it comes to juniors, we've transitioned from the period when we like back in the day, IT companies like were able to scale with people, meaning you're able only to scale horizontally, right? Meaning hire more people. Now they can scale a lot vertically, meaning they can have the same exact amount of people, but at the same time increase automation, automate a lot of things, make people more efficient, more productive, and whatnot. So as a junior, when you're coming in, you kind of have to, if back in the day you were kind of applying to an internship, you were kind of needed, and companies were like, hey, we need you, come over and join us. We'll teach you everything. Don't worry about any of that. Now it's like, hey, you if you want to come over, prove to us that you are worthy
Worthy.
of joining us, because there's plenty of you called AI agents, and we don't care about your skills anyway, because an AI agent can do that for you, for us. And as a result, you're like, as a junior, you're put in the position where you have to prove yourself, which is a tough spot to be in. But at the same time, I'm wondering if this is going to, in the process, produce a very tough generation of juniors. So the next generation. So your opinion on this: is the next generation of engineers going to be way more talented, tough, and strong, or it's the opposite of that, where we like slowly transition to like a period of really tough times because of a lot of stupidity, mediocrity, and everything, which is the result of AI boom?
Look, the new generation is going to face tough and very challenging times because it's not enough just to graduate and have a bachelor degree from technical university. Everybody can get that. I would say, my personal opinion, that the diplomas in IT, they don't really matter
Yeah, I
nowadays.
was gonna ask, is university even a thing which helps you? Because back in the day, you could say university was a good addition because your options weren't that vast. You didn't have a lot of video courses online, not enough tutorials, not enough articles. But nowadays, you have so much information, and you have AI, and you're like, okay, why do I even need to spend 4 years studying a bunch of nonsense? Like, if you take half of the disciplines you study at the university, like a lot of them are bullshit.
I would say, I will put it this way: go to university for networking, for making contacts and friends, because anyway, you'll see them in a couple of years in some other companies. Also, you'll get the basics in the university. But right now, you got YouTube, you have Coursera, Udemy, you have so
Udemy,
many resources.
Udemy will be Coursera. They were bought, I heard.
Okay, so you have plenty of resources at one click distance. There are so many of them even free, where you can learn so many skills and competences. But you don't need to stop only at theory. For instance, you passed a course or you got your diploma. Don't tell me what you learn.
Yeah.
Show me what you can do or what you've done in the past. Show me your portfolio, your GitHub, your real pet project, right? Show me a website, a landing page, I
I
don't know,
mean
some
that
automation.
still used to be the case, and you raise an interesting thing, because I was talking to another person, an engineering manager, and he was arguing the exact opposite of this idea. Like, he was saying, "Don't come and show me pet projects. Come and show me how you can fix what's like a lack of something we don't have, or like show us how you can fit in, and where is your place in the company." And by that he meant like try to like do a little bit of digging into what we're doing as a company, right? Then you see the product, what the product does, and then you see a gap, right? Try to fill that gap. You might not come up with like rocket science solutions and whatnot. You might not have the best open source contribution and whatnot, but if you show us that you can fill out a gap, you automatically justify that you have a place in our team. So I would say both of them are good. Like, pet projects are a way to kickstart your knowledge and like get a grasp of like touching concepts and whatnot. and get a feeling of how project feels like. But at the same time, when you solve like real problems, you may not touch a little bit of everything, but you touch something and you go really deep into that direction. So it's good to have both, in my opinion. But I do agree with what you say. Like, show that you belong, show that you and like I did finish university, and at the time I used to view university not necessarily as like this is going to give me a bundle of knowledge which I then can possess and other people don't have it. You in reality you study the same exact shit you can find on the internet, especially nowadays, especially with all the tooling information you got. But I viewed it as a challenge, as a discipline. Like, this is the very first thing you actually finished top to bottom. Like, it's not easy to finish a university degree. You have to go through all the bullshit. You have to, at the end, write, like, you have to go for exams, study, all that stuff. At the end, you have to write the thesis. And all of that takes a little bit of grit and discipline.
Discipline and resilience. So
Yeah. So it's
finish
a
it.
good, like, yeah, of course, people just finish it and just for the check mark, just so that they can show that they have like a degree. At the same time, when you look at it, you have a like a more fragile generation which easily gets bored and whatnot. And when you see somebody actually finishing university, you're like, okay, this person at least has got the discipline. Now, can they combine the discipline plus the practical aspect of what they learn, so he can prove himself that he belongs in this company, so he can immediately bring value, right? That's what I would look for, at least if I am to pick university. But it's fucking a lot of time, like 4 years. I don't know. I don't know if I would do it now, to be honest.
But you don't have to go there daily. I mean, you can do
some
it like
some degrees require you to go. Like, I know what you're talking about, like the reduced frequency and whatnot, whatever it's called. Like, there is such a possibility, but a lot of them will opt that you can do it, and if you have like a certain amount of absences, then they will not qualify you for the exam. Like, a lot of bullshit.
I think yeah, it just depends on the
I
university and
think
what kind of professors you
Yeah,
get
I
in
think
there.
our generation revolutionized the arena a little bit, because back in the day it was kind of required, but now, because even when I did my university, I think I started to work from the first year. I found a company, immediately started not giving a shit about university. I'm like, okay, fuck that. I don't need math. I don't need superior math, linear algebra, and all the bullshit, which I thought was bullshit. I now think it's useful, but at the time I thought, look, I need to feed myself. I need to make a living, right? So I'm like, fuck university. I'll just come here and there, exams and whatnot, and just mind my business. But again, like, if you were to do it, like spend 4 years uh, with the old rules, I strongly believe universities have to change. Otherwise, they will probably go bankrupt, unless you're like a I don't know, state university. But I'm not sure the state university is funded by the government, funded by the state. If you're not publicly funded, then you kind of are on your own. You're like a private financial institution which you have to survive. And if you don't have clients, meaning students, then how are you surviving?
But also the curriculum needs to be changed.
Yeah,
What
that
worked
definitely.
15 or 10 years ago is not relevant
I think
nowadays.
I've seen like the technical university, they've made some changes. Like, when you look at most universities, they have this AI shift in a way. Like you have a bit of a change, you could say, and they try to keep up with whatever the market is demanding. At the time, it was a lot of software engineers, so you had algorithms, you have data structures and whatnot, and now it's kind of shifting a little bit towards AI. So they're doing a good job, but would you spend 4 years of your life knowing that you only have like about 1700 weeks to live? Would you spend 4 years of that to go study it, to the most part kiss a lot of ass, especially when you have to build those reports? Like, you have to, like, at least when it comes to software engineering, when you're writing, like, you're given a task. After you like do the task, you complete the code, you have the code, now you have to write a report stating everything you've done there, basically explaining yourself. And that part is the most annoying to me, at least it was at the time. So I would just copy the fucking report for somebody else, have my solution pasted in there, and I would just, but like, that kiss assing alone is like such a waste of time.
If you'd go back in time. would you still go to university or
If
skip it?
I were to go back in time and university were to cut off all the bullshit, by bullshit I mean you study a lot of subjects like psychology, like philosophy. Technical. I know technical university used to have philosophy, some law shit. I'm not saying it's not useful. You have a lot of math, like maybe more than you need, maybe more than you actually need. I'd opt for a university degree where you have it more specialized. Like you pick a niche, like for instance, somebody likes more, let's say, cryptography. Somebody else likes engineering. Let's say somebody else likes, I don't know, even like you have extreme small niche, like the way it's done at the moment, it's a more generalistic approach. Like you study engineering in general, that is math, that is mechanics, physics. Let's throw in a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. The reason why it's done this way is because historically speaking, university had a bunch of teachers. Like they had let's say a specific number of teachers. Obviously they wanted to preserve the jobs, right? So if you want to preserve the jobs, you don't want to fire your teachers. The way to do that is to basically increase the curriculum so that everyone kind of have their own slots of stuff. That way you can also extend the program and say it's not going to take you 3 years or 2 years, but it's going to take you 4 years. You can make a little bit more extra money. And I understand their motives. At the same time, for me, it feels like a scam. If you know what I mean? Like you go in there, you're expecting to like, and the IT industry is changing extremely fast. And when you put two and two together, it's like it doesn't make sense. I don't know. I don't know. What's your opinion about, like, would you go back and do it again?
If I would go back, I'll probably take 1 or 2 year like gap years in order to find out what are my passion.
How would you do that? Would you like go some, like, what kind of activity would you do to find out what you like?
I would just travel to Europe or to the United
What
States.
if you're a poor student who doesn't have a lot of money?
Well, you can still go and work there, you know?
If you get a visa.
Yeah. So you
I
get the
you
visa.
mentioned work and travel in the beginning, and I did apply for work and travel. And I'll be honest, my financial situation at the time wasn't very great. I think that's the primary reason why US even rejects most visas, because of financials. And I just got rejected. And
How many times did you apply?
I think I applied only the first year. Like like when you like arrive in the capital of the country, your immediate thought is, how do I make a living? How do I fucking make a breakthrough, right? And your immediate thought is, what the fuck is everyone else doing? And you look around, students first year university, they apply for work and travel. They try to make a living, try to push themselves a little bit ahead. And you look around, you kind of feel like you're missing out on, like, you have this FOMO effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I did try to apply, it didn't work. I got rejected. I'm like, okay, fuck it, I need a second plan. So I started at the time, I'm not sure if you remember or not, but at the time, hackathons were a popular thing at universities, where you basically have students and you have several companies coming and organizing events like for 24, 36, or 48 hours. And they're like, okay, we have this fucking
You
challenge,
need to build an MVP or something.
build some kind of an MVP, some kind of a product. And this would be organized either by companies or by organizations like UNDP, like even foreign organizations would come. And I'm like seeing this shit. I'm like, okay, fuck it. This is my opportunity to prove myself. Like that was the way to prove yourself at the time. You go hackathons and then you hope that you either win, which we did win one time, or the second option is maybe you don't win, but maybe a company really likes what you did, and then you get headhunted by that
Yeah,
company.
maybe you get an internship
True, true.
or a
That was
potential.
the thinking at the time. Okay, fuck that. Work and travel didn't work for me. Let's try something else, right? So, but yeah, like I it makes sense what you're saying with the gap years even. But like I think it's problematic for Moldovans because we have this even I would say cultural shift where you're always on a rush. You never should be behind everybody else. Like you always have to rush for school. You have to do six. Like if you can like send your kid to school at 6, that's even better because he's like 1 year ahead and whatnot. And then you rush for high school try to pick the best high school, the best this, the best that. Then you quickly rush into university. And I realized people are rushing for universities when I went into university and I actually saw people that are way older than me. I'm like, why is this guy so fucking old compared to me? It's because he didn't rush. He took his time. Maybe he realized, okay, this is what I want to do, right?
But here's the problem, because we're all, as you mentioned, we're always in a rush. But why are we copying some other path? If X, Y, Y is doing that, doesn't necessarily mean that I should do the same. Maybe I need to take my time to find out if I really like that, or it's just
You know why that is? Is because universally, very rare people think their own thoughts. I would say the majority of people think what somebody else programmed into their mind. So that can be school, high school, parents, neighborhood, friends, and whatnot. Like if I were to take my example, I was supposed to. I even didn't even fucking do the, like at high school you have humanistic and real profile. I did humanistic again because I wasn't thinking my own thoughts. I was told go humanistic because it's easier, because it's not so overloaded, because you don't have so much math, so much physics and whatnot. So I did go that route. Eventually, I figured out I don't know anything about IT, but I like that field. It was back in the day, really like back in the day, like quite a while ago. And I just kind of started tinkering with that and then liked it. But I didn't finish that. I was supposed to go study languages as everyone else around me was like kind of encouraging it. It's interesting you mentioned that because I think it has to do with the way our Moldovan culture is built, which is try to fit in the box, try not to think outside the box,
try to be like
be
everyone
normal.
else.
Yeah,
Go to school,
yeah,
go to
yeah.
university, go get a job. But why in the school are not taught to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, nobody
So-
talk like nobody teaches you about money, financial education, entrepreneurship, building stuff. Like the funniest thing about Moldova in general is you have to ask, like as a builder, you have to ask permission from the people who don't build shit. And by people who don't build shit, I mean the government and everyone responsible for all these kinds of institutions that give you like permission to whatever, permission to build this building. You need like a urbanistic zonal plan or whatever it's called. Permission to start a business. Well, what kind of business you want to fucking start? Do you want to start like a restaurant? Okay, there's this check, that check, that check. You have to comply with all these fucking laws and regulations. Speaking of law, but the point is, it's hard, and people like if we're touching again on school and educational system, the educational system is built in a way to basically train people for working for factories. Like we still have that mindset. Like we're going to train people to be employees. And that's what the educational system does. It teaches you how to be obedient, how to know your fucking place.
and you are punished if you're not
True.
following
Yeah.
the protocol.
Yeah. It's like you take the, like not even that. Like you take the normal fucking, like there's even this joke with like the Romanian class. I'm not sure if you heard of it or not, but basically the Romanian class, like a teacher was asking their student or a student to basically write an essay of what did the author mean when he said that, and that student happened to know the actual author of that phrase, of that saying. She went or he went to that author, asked for the opinion. He said, this is what I meant. He wrote that opinion. When it goes back to the teacher, that she says, no, this is wrong. He actually meant this thing, but this is the fucking author who said that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're supposed to think a certain way, and as you said, you're punished if you don't think like everyone else. And I think that's why, like, that's the primary reason why the educational system is failing, especially the younger generation. Like if you're, as you said, a junior and you're really relying on the fact that you're going to finish university and somebody is waiting for you with a job, and that job is going to be handed out to you and it's going to be well paying, and you have this expectation of, like, I'm not sure what's the minimum expectation now for a junior when it comes to salaries, but I remember I started with like, was it 200 euros? I don't even fucking, it was so low. You could almost tell that I'm being scammed, but I was so dumb. I didn't even know what's the value on the market. Like how do you sell yourself? How do you advocate that you deserve more? Like, what's the value you bring on the table? And nowadays, people just kind of expect this is what you're supposed to be given, but at the same time, it's kind of rough. You need to know all this stuff, and market is evolving, and nobody's gonna have mercy for you.
I would
Nobody's waiting for
say
you.
right now, if you get a potential job offer, you can even go work for free for a couple of months, just get and secure the spot because it's not as easy as it used to be. As you mentioned, you need to prove yourself, but you're worthy. And how do you differentiate yourself for plenty of other candidates that are on market nowadays? So that's a good point to.
Have you had cases when people would say, I'm gonna come and work for free, just let me in"?
I've seen some mails on the corporate mails where people apply, but look, I would like to make a point. Some people are sending the still the motivation letter, or they're writing a prompt in the ChatGPT, but they're not even filling up the like put here the name, surname, and the phone number, and it's just XXX on something. It's like you just self sabotaged yourself. You don't know how to properly
And you even
write
destroyed
a mail.
the idea for everyone else who wants to do it genuinely. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say the only way I would trust that somebody, like, let's say I was an HR, although it's kind of conflicting with my own internal values, but let's say I'm an HR, I'm hiring somebody. If I were to receive such an invitation from a person who really wants to get into it but doesn't have the experience, and it's stuck in this chicken egg problem where they need experience to get a job and they need a job to get experience, I would, I guess, require them a video message of them, like actually listening to them speaking, illustrating ideas, how they can contribute, because I can't trust people. I can't trust text these days. I
You
can't
know,
even trust like video. I'm not sure if you can fake that too.
in the past, let's talk about a bit about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
People wanted to write perfectly polished post with no mistakes, because if you make a mistake, you look like a fool.
You're not professional.
Nowadays,
Yeah.
people on purpose write a typo or some mistake so it looks like human human written. Although we know that it's not necessarily bad to use ChatGPT for inspiration, but you need to put the human side,
Yeah.
your personal point,
Leave a
like
little
not like
bit of flavor. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because I was texting the other day somebody. I was like, hey, XYZ, I want to invite you to the podcast and think you're an interesting person, blah 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 blah. Only to find out that and I did write the message in Romanian, so they did back reply in Romanian. So first thing I see is a really long text. Everything is extremely correct. Everything has diacritics because Romanian is a beautiful language with diacritics, not just plain English ASCII characters. Everything has diacritics, and then I see that fucking long dash. I see the apostrophes. I'm like, fuck. Couldn't you just spend a little bit of time to tell me no? I mean, I can take a no. I'm a grown up ass man where it's okay. I can take a no. I can take a rejection. It's not the first time, right? But at least it's your own words, it's your own expression, and that's how you feel, and that's fine. But yeah, I mean, when you use Chat GPT for that, I'm like, okay, where's this thing going? Is it? I don't know.
it's slowly disappearing. Like people rely a lot on automation, on auto reply. So why bother to think how to provide like a long answer when you can just write a prompt in
Yeah,
10
it
seconds?
gets so fucking weird to the point where you're like, okay, the only way somebody can prove to me that they're real is if we meet in person.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
trust any of that shit. I don't trust messages. I don't trust videos. I don't trust audio. All of that is fake nowadays. I'm not sure if video is has gotten to the point where you can like fake it because you need a little bit of digging. But text is easily like you can just throw it into an LLM.
video call a person or invite him straight to the office to have a tete-a-tete conversation to
Yeah, the
discover.
problem with headhunting is on the one, like, why do you even go through like, hey, submit your CV and blah blah blah? Is you want to limit the amount of spam you get to filter, right? You don't want to spend days in uh, a lot of CVs and people trying to get a job when And again, this is all textual information. A CV is basically text, right? You're reading through what the person did, what's their career, where did they spend their time, what exactly they did, and whether or not they're a good fit for your company. And based on that alone, you can't really make a judgment. At the same time, you can't spend like 1 or 2 hours a day for every single candidate that sends an application to your company. Let's say you're a huge company and you get offers very, very, very much every fucking day. Like you need a process to filter out the bad apples. At the same time, how do you do that?
I've seen thousands of CVs. Trust me, it takes less than 10 seconds to
Really?
scan it. Yeah, I'm
What
telling you.
makes a good CV versus a bad one?
Look, first of all, a CV needs to be a maximum 1 or 2 page, 2 pages if you are a super senior with a big background and portfolio and links to, I don't know, GitHub and so on. But what I'm looking for when I'm scanning a CV are the keywords. Do they match for the job that I'm looking to fill? And how it's written? Because you can even there are 10 and hundreds of templates, but what exactly did he read the job description where he applied? Or does it fit or no? First thing that I do, I pick up the phone. Yeah, I'm giving a call to see what does this person
You call
represent.
people?
Calling, when it comes to hiring, sure thing.
Yeah.
Calling, video calling, and I hate when this process takes weeks or months. It's not supposed to be like that. For instance, yeah, we'll take our time, couple of. This person is looking for a job.
Yeah.
He needs to put food on the table. He's not gonna wait for you for a couple of months. So I like when I have a possibility to do this in maximum in 2-3 stages, to connect with the right people, invite him straight to the office, give him a homework, like a test task to see if, and still, right now it's harder to do because you don't know how he performed this task. But we need to move faster. So yeah, it's not supposed to take weeks or months. So let's back to the point that scanning a CV takes only seconds, but you need quickly to move to the audio call, video call, and see if the person matches or no.
Yeah, the reason I don't spend a lot of time in like building CVs is because a lot of the times I just was extremely disappointed with companies interviewing me. Like a lot of the times they would just read the CV on spot, right? You send them the CV, they're like, "Oh, great candidate" and shit like that. Like the usual template message they send everyone, and then you show up, you have a technical conversation. The guy's like, "Oh, I see in your CV," or not even that. That's a good sign if they say, "I see in your CV that you worked here," and they start asking questions based on my CV. At least I know they're reading or read the CV. But when they ask something which is explicitly stated in the CV, it immediately tells me that they didn't even do the fucking research. They didn't.
But look, in CV you can write anything you want, and if they catch you
No,
lying,
I mean like basic information. Like let's say you're looking for I don't know, for job A, B, and C, and then you show up and they ask you, "Do you have experience in A, B, or C?" It's like, come on, dude. Like what are
do
we
your
talking about?
homework. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like the basic home assignment which you should have done. Or when you approach somebody and they're like, "Okay, I see," and this is the problem with like AI automation. I think a lot of HR people use automated tools to do that. Basically, target profiles which have certain skills listed in there, and they just uh, and I'm not sure if the tool is the mistake or if they do the mistake. I'm not exactly sure who runs the messaging, but basically they message you about, "Hey, I see that you have experience in this in PHP, for example."
but you're talking about LinkedIn or
I'm
just on
talking about
personal.
specifically LinkedIn. "I see that you have
Mm-hmm.
experience in PHP, blah blah blah. We have a job in PHP." But what they failed to realize is I worked in PHP 7 years ago. I'm not no longer interested in that. I don't care about that. Like things like that, where the tool technically is right. Like it checks your profile, it sees that you have the skills listed. Okay, let me text this person. What it failed to do is it didn't check that my interest over 7 years changed, and maybe they should have adjusted the tool, or maybe they should do a little bit of human touch, like check before you make a bad impression of the company, because you're representing a company most of the times. So yeah, it's things like that.
I agree with you, but let me tell you something. Yeah, I don't know if you know about LinkedIn Recruiter, where recruiters message 150 or 200 candidates per day. They don't necessarily do this manually
Yeah.
because they're typing some keywords and they're sending the templates to the 200 candidates because at the end it's a numbers game. The more people you text, and most of them don't even reply. Well, it used to be, at least couple of years.
It used to be that you chase engineers. Now it's the opposite.
Now, yeah, it's completely opposite.
Yeah, yeah.
Now the developers are going back. They're
They're like,
scrolling through
why are
their.
you not replying and shit? I'm like, I don't even care. I just reply for replying and I forget about it. Yeah, my like at least that's my gauging of okay, I'm checking if this is a serious person. If they don't reply, that's fine.
I would say always reply to any messages on your mail, on my LinkedIn. You never know what situation you might be, how the life will change. So always leave room for the conversation. So just reply, even it only takes 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for your interest. Not available at the moment. But over time, it builds your trust, credibility, and that you're a serious person.
I'm wondering how you deal with those engineers. Like when you approach an engineer, you're looking for a position, and you say, "Here's the job." Like the typical template you have is, "Hey, I'm looking for XYZ developer or whatever. Here's a template. Here's a job description." And obviously, as an engineer, you open the job description. There's no mention of salary, and you're like, as an engineer, I'm sure you hear this a lot. You are asking the HR, "What is your budget?" what's your
What's your expectation?
yeah, and
What's the salary range? Oh, it's always this.
it's always this ping pong game where you have like Spider-Man pointing to Spider-Man and like who's the real Spider-Man. And I'm like, do you like I'm not sure like because HR people love to play this whoever speaks first loses game, you know? Like whoever says the number first, that's where the number settles. Maybe they had planned a way bigger budget, but because you said the number first, and I guess engineers also kind of learned a lesson along the way. They don't typically answer to the question like, "I this is my salary." And the problem is because HR in the past used to ask the question, "What's your salary expectations?" Because they were interested in the candidate, but not because they just send the template to 200 people, as you said. They don't immediately say that this is the expectation because they might have given like a lower budget, a bigger budget. You never know. And because kind of developers initiate this conversation of money, then they kind of get put in the corner.
The first question: are you even interested? For instance, in the position of PHP developer. If yes, let's connect on the call.
Yeah, but here's my problem with it. Let's say I am interested in a job, but let's say I am in a really shitty situation. I was just laid off and I'm looking for jobs. And I've spent a month or two looking for jobs, and you get a lot of non-serious companies. A lot of companies approaching you, not texting you. You go the first interview stage, they don't text you back. You go HR stage, they don't text you back. Like a lot of that shit happens nowadays. So it's kind of dirty, and you're like, why should I fucking waste my time talking 20 minutes about something and you're not even the person who's going to decide whether or not I get a job. Like I'll have to go 3 to 4 stages of everything in my way so that in the end I get to hear either congrats, you got a job, or congrats, we're looking for somebody else, or somebody else has accepted already the offer because we've sent this message to 200 people, or even worse, you don't align with the company values, whatever the fuck that means.
Or you're maybe
Yeah.
overqualified.
Yeah, like
And I
shit
hear-
like that. Like, and the reason I immediately, like, the reason I personally do it this way, I'm maybe a dickhead for doing that. I will immediately go money. Like, let's talk money, let's talk financials. And that's okay. You have an interest. Your interest is we're looking for a person who's talented in this specific area. I am looking for a way to be satisfied while, like, we're both looking for something, right? And if we can, like, you know that phrase, this could have been an email.
yeah.
Exactly the same here. This could have been a text message. This is the budget. Cool, not cool. Let's move on. If it's cool, let's have a call, as you said. I do agree with everything else. after we establish that we have both met the minimum requirements?
Well, look, that's an interesting perspective, but it depends. As you said, if you're in a shitty position, you're going to go for even a lower salary if you've been looking for 2 or 3 months for a job. Nobody wants to hire you. So the upper hand has the recruiter in that specific case. Yeah, he can take his time. He needs to still go through other candidates. But if a headhunter approaches you, usually with headhunting are for more senior managerial roles, people who are not necessarily looking for a job.
Yeah, but you mentioned the upper hand. I could demonstrate the upper hand by me having the possibility to refuse your job. So if I'm like, yes, yes, please, let's have a call, you immediately like you do a psychoanalysis and you know this person is desperate. I'm
It's
probably
desperation.
it's
Exactly.
desperation. I can negotiate that. Whereas if you see a person like I'm asking for a budget, you say no, this is secret and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm not interested. You immediately see that this person actually has leverage. Let me maybe either one tell him the budget or let me get to like a middle ground position where we get to talk and discuss that. Some people would say this is a secret, I'm not going to tell you, we should jump in a call and I will tell you in the call verbally. Or they say in no circumstance I'll tell you the budget. Or the thing that I hate the most is it depends on your experience. Like you're telling me I need to fucking waste 3 to 4 weeks before I find out that I don't even like what I'm being
But that's a
given.
shame. And
Yeah.
even imagine if you're passing a test
Yeah.
that takes couple of hours, so it can take a full day, and then you find out that the budget doesn't satisfy you. So you just
True.
it's just a waste of
Yeah, but
of
you would be
time.
surprised how many HR people act in this exact way. Like they approach you and I'm like, okay, you guys need people. Cool, I'm available. And then I ask for the budget and they say, we can tell you the budget. And I say, I'm not interested. They ask me for my expectation. I reiterate my position. I want to know the budget. And then they tell me, okay, the budget will depend on whether or not you qualify. And based on how you qualify, we'll say this is how much you get. And I'm like, why the fuck do I even waste my time with that? And that immediately tells me this is a not serious company. Most likely the budget is shit. Like the biggest companies I've worked for in my experience, those are the companies who give the least amount of shits about mm, like of course they care about your qualifications, but they have like they give you the least amount of stress when it comes to you being able to get the job. And once you get the job, even the job feels a bit more chill. It's not as stressful. And on the contrary, the companies that give the smallest budgets are the companies that give you the biggest amount of headache and pain in the ass from the very get go when you just are starting with the HR and everything else, down to the very start of your like day in your project when you start developing code, interacting with your peers, seeing the processes and everything else like that. And then you're like, I fucking knew it. It's just a confirmation once I land in the project, you know?
And also, I would say a lot depends of luck, just a bit of luck and the right timing, the right context. Because if we need to hire a developer the next 2 weeks, we're not gonna spend like time
Yeah,
examining like a
then we
hundred.
have the upper hand because we can dictate, okay, you guys need it fast. And you're also being like, I think as a developer, the better you understand the organizational structure of an IT company, the better you can utilize that, right? So if you know that they're looking for, I would even go ahead and ask how many candidates you have in the queue. If they have a lot of them, I know almost immediately they're not rushing, they're not looking. If they have like a few of them, and it's been a while since they've been looking, maybe they are kind of struggling, right? Maybe they really want the best and I can compete with the best instead of compete with everybody. Like you have to be a little bit of psychologist and analyze the situation. If you're just applying and you blindly think that you're the most special person, then you're immediately losing.
And you need to prepare. Let's imagine the scenario: you go for an office interview and not the recruiter is making of course, the final decision. Your immediate manager or your team lead. And as you mentioned regarding the psychology, you need to have a emotional side, emotional connection with a team lead. Because look, let's be honest and let's talk frankly. If I don't like you and if I don't see you around me and enjoying working with you, we're not gonna hire you.
A lot of the times it goes down to that. Like, you can be the best specialist. I just don't fucking like you. Like,
I
no.
just don't feel
Yeah,
your
yeah.
vibe. The connection is not good. I just don't feel like that.
What's your, since we started opening this topic, we've been talking quite a lot. What is your, let's say, top 3 priorities when you hire somebody?
Attitude, behavior, being honest, transparent, and saying the things the way they are. Because at an interview, if you catch someone lying, but it doesn't correspond to his resume, it's like, come
I'll
on,
tell
man.
you why the last part maybe is not as true. Like, when you show up in these interviews, there's a proper way of answering certain questions. Questions like, what's your biggest problem? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What other questions like people love to ask? Like,
Well, that's
tell
a
us
terrible question
tell us
of
how you solve and manage conflicts, like things like that. Like, they want, I understand the motive, right? They want to put you in a position and simulate the situation so they can see how you behave in that situation. The problem with that question is there is a right answer and a wrong answer, and you almost immediately discard away the honesty aspect. Like, you're not gonna see honesty in that question because that person knows that he's being under a microscope, and what you're trying to do is disqualify him by giving that question. So they're just gonna give you the right answer, which is gonna tickle your ears. You're gonna think this is the right candidate, and then they can fuck you over once they land the job.
but also the group interviews when
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
2 3 people playing the good cop, the bad cop, someone is trying to provoke you or give you a question to see how you react in that specific scenario. So you really need to be careful how you behave yourself, because you only get one shot to
I
impress
love
the.
those. I mean, the way I personally look at it is, yes, I do only have one shot. At the same time, I don't just want to get the job with everything, right? I don't want to sacrifice everything. I don't want to look like a dumbass, have no composure just for the sake of getting a job, right? And if you're a person who values honesty and composure and manhood, if you will, then you're going to look for a person who is more, maybe he is a little bit flawed, but at least he is honest, right? And the way I typically like to give answers, even technical answers, is I don't like to say something is only good or only bad, because you immediately can tell that that person is fake. Something is not right. If you can give an answer in the form of compromises, like, we're going to do it this way because of this, or we can do it this way because of that. Like, both ways are good. This way is going to give you this benefit, but this downside. And if you can put it like that, then you are immediately telling the other person, like, you've been there, you've done that, you know a little bit of everything, you have experience. At the same time, you know, like, you have the maturity to choose solutions. At the same time, you've been on the market and you have this kind of maturity that they're looking for. It might actually be their case that they are struggling with a problem, and you know about this problem and you know how to tackle it because you've been there. Whereas if you just seem positive on the surface and give the proper answers, the right answers, then you seem kind of fake. But that's if you're looking for honesty, as you said. A lot of people don't look for that.
Also, take a look how they talk about their previous experience, about previous employers.
If they're
If
shitting on it,
yeah, if they're shitting on it, that's definitely a red flag.
yeah.
Imagine they'll do the same after they leave you.
What are some other red flags, would you say?
The biggest red flag is no show to the interview.
No
Being
show?
no show. I mean,
Is that a case though?
yeah, sure, it does happen.
I thought it's the other way around. When you,
No, I'm talking about some time ago.
like, you schedule the interview, they don't show
Yeah,
up?
they just don't show up. No show up or being late
Yeah.
without announcing it. Oh, it's just screaming. Don't hire me. It's like, come on, we have a full day scheduled with some other activities besides hiring. If you're being late 20 or 30 minutes and you didn't even bother to call us and inform, that's it. How he talks about the previous employers, does he prefer to work individually
Yeah, but
or
you
in.
typically ask this weird question, which sounds like, why are you switching your jobs? And you're kind of provoking the person to shit on their employees. And I know this is a tricky question, and I immediately go, look, I don't want to shit on my employee, but this is the part which doesn't go well, right? So you're not critiquing the person who gave you the opportunity to have that job, but you're critiquing rather the situation you're in, right? And at least they can see that as a, if they can appreciate that, of course.
Well, people are switching jobs and companies for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to evolve and move to a different position. Maybe they want to move from a technical role to a more managerial one. Maybe they want to earn more money. Maybe they don't get along with their manager or team lead. And so on and so forth. So we're asking this specific question to find the motive. Why is he and how frequently is he changing? If you're changing jobs every half a year,
Yeah.
that's a red flag. It's
How
like
frequent is too frequent?
there's not a right or wrong answer to this, but at least 2 or 3 years in one position, it means stability. If you're switching, as I said, every half a year or even every 3 months, you're not, it means you're not passing maybe probation period because as you probably know right now, the probation period can be up to 6 months. So I think it's a good sign to discover the person, whether he matches the job, the culture of the company. But there's no the right answer, but at least being for a couple of years in a job means that you've learned the job in and out, and maybe you're ready for a different position and a different role.
Yeah, the one which gets me the most is when I'm not looking for a job, right? But they still approach me, and then they're asking me in the interview, so why do you want to join us? I'm like, you guys fucking approached me, not the other way around. And you get into this interesting argument. It's like you're the one betraying your company, when in reality they're like, okay, we think you're good enough, let's hire you. But yeah, it happens the other way around. But at the same time, going back to the reason I ask this, because every single time I do have and I leave it on purpose. I could easily remove it from my CV, but I leave it on purpose so that I do get asked the question, why did you work only 3 or 4 months at this position? And I immediately go and ask them, do you have a girlfriend? They might say yes or no. And I'm like, did you break up? Why did you break up?
Wait, really? Did they?
No,
Did they?
no. I'm asking them. I'm asking them. Do you have a girlfriend? And did you just break up with her? They're like, yeah or not. Like, depending on the situation, they might or not be honest about that. And I go and then try to prove to them, like, uh, working for a company is just like a relationship with a girlfriend. It's like a relationship with any
It might
person.
work or
It
it
might
might
work
not.
or it might not. So when you ask me why this relationship with this company hasn't worked, it's for various reasons. Yes, this could be a red flag for you that I didn't choose to take a company's shit. At the same time, I could have easily taken that out of the CV. I could have easily shown you that I am the best person, I'm the loyal person, and I take all the shit. I am easily, I can be easily manipulated and everything else like that. So at the same time, like when you leave it in the CV, I'm like, okay, I know this is fucking coming. I know I'm gonna be asked this question, and I want to test the person who's interviewing me wherever they can take a little bit of honesty. If they ask me because they genuinely want to know and they have the intent of hiring me, I know at least they're looking for somebody and they value honesty, right? But if they ask me with the intent of disqualifying me, I immediately know that that's a red flag. That's a
Toxic culture
no,
at
that's
being there.
that's like a bonus filter for me, right? I didn't have to put in the effort of figuring out whether there's a red flag in that company. They did it for themselves, right? Because they asked me that question with the intent of disqualifying me, because that's how they are used to hiring people. Like, we are looking for loyal, loyal, not so honest people that shut the fuck up and just take all the shit, right? And we view this as corporate, and we do this as a person who's stable enough to be in our company, right? What they don't realize in the process is if you're looking for honesty and at the same time you cannot take honesty, that speaks about your hypocrisy, right? If you say we value honesty and the moment you hire somebody and they're honest, you fire them, then you're fucking not looking for honesty, you're looking for obedience. So I would say, of course, companies will not show up in an interview and say, hey, we are looking for monkey jobs and for monkey people that will be just execute and deliver everything on time. Nobody wants to do bad marketing, although there's no such thing as bad marketing. At the same time, like you want the job as the like you want the job as an engineer, right? So you want to look good in front of them. So everyone kind of wants to look good, and in the pursuit of everyone wanting to look good, uh, it sounds good on paper to say you're looking for honesty. However, that is something which potentially can maybe piss someone off, right? You might ask a question looking for honesty or saying you're looking for honesty, but he might give you an actual honest answer which pisses you off and you don't hire him.
It's kind of dual standards.
It's a very tricky one. Like if I am being asked about my previous experience, knowing I could have taken it out of my CV because nobody gives a shit about them anyway. A few people read CVs. I immediately know, okay, he genuinely wants to know, or B, he actually wants to fuck me up and move on to the next candidate.
Look, maybe the recruiter is not very competent. We need to,
Yeah.
someone needs to analyze to the calls, how his upper manager, how are the interviews conducted? Do they ask some personal questions that were not supposed to be asked? Because the recruiter represents the face. He's the ambassador of a company. He's the first one who picks up the call when, based on the way he represents himself, it says a lot about the company, about its culture, and whether would you like to move on with this company or not. So he can either make or break it.
Do you ever, I know this is not popular to ask, but do you, like when you hire people, do you look for obedience or do you look for people that sometimes will fucking put you in your place, sometimes will call you on your shit? Like, and the reason I ask that is what I see happening on scale is companies hire other people. Like if you have A and B players in companies, they will hire C and D players, meaning players slash employees that uh, in a way are more obedient, right? In a way, when you join a company, it's correct of you to first familiarize yourself with what the fuck is going on, the rules, respect the rules, and maybe bring your contribution later on. Maybe try to change things later on so that you don't disturb everyone's order and peace. At the same time, when you hire those people, there is a high risk that they will come in and try to change everything. So if you just want people that are obedient, meaning they will come in and do everything, respect everything as it is, then are you really growing?
Well, look, but my back question to you is how many people are willing to go for a revolution and change the things? Think 90 or 95% of the people, they just come at the work, clock in, clock out, 5 o'clock, I'm gone.
Yeah,
They don't
yeah,
really care. I would say that's 90% of the people. However, if you want to grow, to develop yourself and move to a more leadership role, you have to bring your own vision, your own contribution, and change something even from the roots. Propose ideas. Don't wait for the things to be told. Come up with with 10 ideas, maybe one or two it will pass and go to the higher ups. You need to do something, to do more, not to be average. It's very dangerous to be average and mediocre.
yeah.
So yeah, that's my point. But if you're looking to hire someone for obedience, it's like for fulfilling your ego.
The reason I ask this is because when you show up in the interview, as I said, you have two ways of answering the same question. The first one is I'll tell them what they want to hear. It's going to sound really good. This is the politically correct answer. This will 99% likely going to guarantee me the job. There's the second one, which is I'm going to tell them exactly how I feel without caring whether or not I get the job. Potentially there might be an HR person or an engineer who will appreciate my honesty and will say, this is who we're looking for. This is the guy we've been fucking looking for, and everyone else has failed on this aspect. However, that's likely not very often. And a lot of the times, how it even happens, right? Like you take the engineering team, right? Like there's like you're doing your day-to-day work, right? And let's say the engineering team doesn't necessarily um, push a lot of, like, it doesn't deliver as much as the management would love to. The management is like, why are we moving so slow? The software engineering team is like, yeah, we don't have a lot of people, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of support we have to do. And the management is like, okay, let's hire more people. That's your initial instinct. And you're like telling the HR people, go find some fucking people. They find some people, they come to the, I'm describing the diagram, how it works. They come to the engineering manager or whoever is responsible. They're like, you are supposed to interview this person, and that person, schedule some calls and go about it. Then they interview that person, and what happens next is that person might give the politically correct answers to HR people. Like they tell them what they want to hear. Then it goes down to the engineering, right? You interview them. Let's say they do a good enough job at this, like the hard skills and whatnot. And then it comes down to, like, at both of these stages, that person can either be blunt about everything. He might tell you things you don't want to hear, but at least it's honest and it's his way of seeing things through experience and whatnot. Or he can just be extremely, let's say, obedient in the way he answers everything, because he knows, if I'm going to say this is the proper way of doing things, it might piss him off, because I know that this company struggles with, let's say, technical debt. And if I will voice my opinion on that, and I think that this is wrong to have a lot of it, then they might potentially see me as a bad apple in a way.
A lot of things depends on the manager, his ego, his personality, if he's looking for obedient people or for contributors, for people with innovative and creative ideas or going to shake a bit of the things. I would not say that it necessarily to hire more people, and I'll give you a specific example, such as Telegram. Their core team
Love it.
have like 30 or 40 max, I think maximum 40 people, core team of developers.
But that's because they run an extremely lean company.
Yeah, so
A lot
how
of
they
what
do
you
it?
see, a lot of what you see on the market is bloated companies with a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of people which shouldn't be there in the first place, positions and jobs that are invented, uh, and everything else like that. Telegram is like the definition of lean. You have exactly as many people as you need, you have a lot of automation, and you have a small enough team that fucking basically builds the best messaging app which there is, in my opinion at least. And it's just amazing. I love the Telegram story, love Pavel Durov. And yeah, it speaks volumes about how you're supposed to run your company. And I've been part of many companies ever since I've started contracting, at least, and I'm seeing so much inefficiency. And I'm like, okay, do I want to come in there and change everything? Or do I want to exploit their inefficiency? Because if you're going to change everything, most likely you're going to destroy a lot of people's peace of mind. And as you said, 90% of people don't give a shit. They just want to clock in, clock out, do their job, fuck off. And do you want to come in and change everything? Or maybe you want to look for a company which values who you are as a person more?
I think it all depends if you're working for a corporation or a startup. In a startup where there are like 10, 20 people, everyone knows what they're doing. You can even combine 2 or 3 roles. We don't have enough hands. You're gonna do this and that. In a corporation that has hundreds or thousands of people, your whole career depends on your manager. Like upper man, they don't even know that you
They
that
don't
you
even know that
exist.
you exist.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that you exist because there are so many people. So
I like that Telegram still operate, like they're a, technically they're a huge corporation when you look at it, how serious everything is, but they're still running as if they're a startup who's looking for funding, which is, I think it's the way to run a company if you're talking about efficiency.
yeah, totally agree with you. So right now it's the time only for the best, the fittest, the most flexible ones. because if you want to stay in the market, you have to be able to quickly pivot, quickly adapt, learn new skills. Other, as the saying goes, adapt or die.
Yeah,
That's it
it's Darwinism 101.
in its purest form. Yeah.
Yeah, I truly agree. We talked a little bit about hiring, which is, I would say, a pain for a lot of people, but we haven't really touched on like when people hire, they're looking a lot for this thing called company, like for this thing called like cultural fit, soft skills and whatnot. So I was wondering, is company culture marketing and HR fluff, or is it something practical? Is it something which people actually get to experience, they get to hold dear and whatnot?
I would say it's a very real and practical thing because prior to your venue to the company, there is a specific set of rules or protocols of how the company operates. So you either fit in and blend within the company or you're not. I would say the first weeks, you need to figure out how the company operates. Who decides what? Who is in charge of what? You need to understand how the things work. Afterwards, you need to blend in, and you need to ask as many questions as you can. There is no such thing as a stupid question. The only bad question is the one that you didn't ask, but you assumed something, and then you do something bad and stupid because you didn't ask. It's okay. You're just a beginner. You need to get used to it, and you need to take notes. This shows that your interest and the curiosity. Sometimes a person can be very good from the technical point of view, but he just doesn't get along with. Nobody wants to work with him. Say, like for instance, Yon is a bad colleague. Like he can't take feedback. He can't take criticism. So how are we going to work with him? That could be a reason why some people don't pass the probation period. So I would say cultural fit is very real one. You need to pay attention to it, and you can't force it. Either you like it or you don't. If not, it's okay. As you said, working for a company is just a relationship. When you get into a relationship, you never know if it's gonna end in with marriage and kids, or you're gonna break up after a couple of months. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have to be open about it and mature. Take a mature approach. If it doesn't work out, you need to move along. It's not the end of the world. Just go in the pursuit of your own happiness.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. Like, not like you don't need to sacrifice your core values as a person just because you're like, yeah, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, you're going to suffer maybe for a month or two until you find a new job, but it is what it is. Move on. At the same time, like you mentioned this idea of nobody gets along with the person, and there's this concept of toxicity, toxic developer, toxic XYZ. What's a toxic person in a company? Like, what are the traits? What's the reason why people don't want to work with that person, or what's the reason why companies try to flush out those kind of people?
Because of one toxic person, the entire project can go down. I mean, everyone is avoiding this specific person, everyone is ignoring him because that toxic developer, for instance, he thinks he's the boss, he knows everything, he's ignoring someone else's feedback. So it's just a hard person just to be around. You're feeling bad vibes about him. So he can be a great developer, but if he's not playing along, if he's not a team player, it's not gonna work out. So that's why companies are trying to flush out and get rid of this um, of these people because they're influencing badly the business overall. Especially if this person might for some reason become a manager
Yeah.
or a team lead. Oh, oh God.
Yeah, but what's the balance? Because I do agree with the fact that there are people that like they can just be assholes, right? They can just be extremely hard to deal with. But is it a person who's hard to deal with because of how brutally honest they are? In that sense, uh, can that be considered toxic, or is it more a person that's, let's say, everything that roots from arrogance, right? Because when you're arrogant, you discard everything, you think you're the smartest, the best, everyone else is stupid.
Ego, arrogance, and if you can't accept other points of view, it's like you would believe that you are considered dumber because that person came to you with a bright answer or a potential solution to this problem, but you ignore this on purpose because in somehow it touches your ego.
But what's the balance between, let's say, being nice to people versus being a no bullshit person?
Well,
So,
look, if you're
because
being too
there's a
nice,
balance, especially like if you've worked in the West, it's very easy to offend people, right? And if you take that approach of I want to be the person who is never offensive to anyone, then you risk bending over the truth. So let's say you're discussing a technical solution and you're suggesting a solution, and you will not suggest a solution because you know that this potentially might piss off some people. And in that pursuit of you trying to protect people's very soft sides, you in the process are suppressing your own core values in a way, just so that everyone else is happy and they can work along. Like, what's the balance between you being a no bullshit person, maybe at the risk of being a bit more harsh, versus trying to make sure everyone is kind of aligned and is able to work with you? Like, they don't treat you as an asshole and completely avoid you.
well, first of all, when we have a problem or we happen to have a challenge, we attack the problem, not the person.
Yep.
Like, you cannot behave like not properly and say, look, something is not working, we need to deal with it. It's not exactly what you say, but how you say. If you tackle the problem and if you come with potential solutions to it, and if some other colleagues are telling you that maybe you're being too direct, too brutal, or too aggressive, maybe it's time to listen to this um, to this feedback and adapt properly. So if you're being too nice or too soft, people will walk over you
Yeah, we'll
and
walk over. Yeah.
take advantage of it. Especially if you're being a manager, you need to, as the saying goes, you don't really need to be friends with. If you're a manager, you don't need to be friends with your subordinates because this border or this red line will cross, and how the person will react to it when you're gonna provide an honest feedback. Hey, look, we're friends, but you're crossing the line. You're not delivering the tasks. I mean, that specific task is overdue for 3 days. Like, what are you doing? It's like, come on, we'll get. No, business is business. Friendship is friendship. So
You mentioned you're a project manager. Do you constantly feel like you're the bad cop, the villain in the company? Because you're responsible of, like, when shit hits the fan, you're the one who's going to take the blame because you're responsible of time and budget. At the same time, if everything went well, you get a little bit of applause, and you get the credits for that, as well as the team. So do you always feel like do you always have the feeling of being the villain? Because if you don't push the people you that are your subordinates, then there might be a potential chance for fuck ups.
well, look, a manager is invisible when all the things are going well and perfect, and everyone uh, see and notice him if the bad things happen. It's like, who is responsible for that? Well, yeah, he needs to be in charge and take responsibility for why did the team underperform and what needs to be improved next time. You don't need to treat. You need to treat everyone as colleagues if you want to be respected in the workplace, because if the colleagues don't respect you, you're not gonna feel very well at the workplace, and the performance is gonna suffer.
Yeah, this idea of keep friendship apart from business is, it makes sense on the one hand, and on the other hand is like it's a delicate balance. That's what I'm trying to say. And a lot of people think, oh, you're the manager, it's easy for you, right? But I would suppose a lot of the times you have to like eat your own tongue and kind of crossover. Like you don't have a normal peer-to-peer relationship because you're supposed to bring the bad news sometimes, and it doesn't always feel good when you're being told you're not performing or you're not delivering or this and that, but you kind of have to tell this to the person because you're like the stakes are higher for you in a way.
You know what's the hardest part that you can do, or
Yeah, well,
what are the bad news is to fire someone.
have you had to do that?
Yeah. So yeah, it's tough because all of these things they stay in your head. You're bringing this home. This I mean, these things stay with you, but at the same time you need to stay professional. You have objectives. You have some um, work to do. So if things are not working out, or if we need to part ways with a colleague, I would say that this is the hardest part of this, to let someone go.
Yeah, I don't know how would I would imagine it's as hard as being in the army, being that guy in the army, because I'm not sure if you know or not, but in the army they have like a dedicated person who goes in and tells family the bad news. Like your son is no longer alive and he will not be coming home. Like imagine having that job.
I would say it's a terrible
Yeah,
position to
like
be in.
I mean, as a manager, I would suppose it's not always the case you fire people if you have to, because it's kind of a choice. Like as managers, I would say you're judged on managing. You're judged how good of a manager you are based on how well you manage people. And part of management, I would say, is taking out bad apples, cutting out the branches which need to be cut. But yeah, it's not fun to deliver that kind of news. And I mean, I've been told that news myself. It's not fun at all, but it's a growth process for you as well as a person. Like when you hear that, I'm sure everyone heard that at least once in their life. When you're just being told the news, when you have like a sudden meeting, hey, what's up? Can we have a call? You're like, oh, let's discuss what am I gonna do next, you know? And then all of a sudden you find out you're being fired. Is it like, yeah, I'm not sure. Was it performance review most of the times you fired people, or was it like layoffs, natural layoffs?
Well, yeah, it really depends. Could be because of the performance or because of the massive layoffs.
Because when you lay off people, you inevitably have to look who's the best and who, like you immediately go into competition mode, right?
But
Who's the best?
it's a natural process,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
if the clients leave, or less projects, you need to look at the company, because it's economy, you know.
Yeah, you
If we
look you
can't,
look 5 to 6 months ahead and see whether or not the company survives. And if that's not the case, then
some tough decisions, but they must be taken. So yeah.
I guess that's why I'm not a manager. It's, I don't know, you need to, as you said, you need to be professional. You need to get out of your feelings and make some tough decisions sometimes. um I was curious, what's maybe a biggest lie managers uh get to, I don't know, tell stakeholders a lot of the times, because you kind of need to make the wolf fed or happy, at the same time try to also somehow keep the ship alive, the ship in this case being the development team. Do you sometimes take the blame and then try to communicate it with the development team? Like, how do you balance this delicate thing?
It's important to build everything on trust and transparency, but going back to your question, everything will be delivered on time, which most of the times does not really happen, but you need to announce ahead of the time, so and we plan accordingly. But if we are open and we have regular communication, if you inform stakeholders, because look, because of these factors, we need prioritize prioritize this and postpone this if we want to deliver in time agreed terms.
Yeah, I'm sure like like a huge part of your job is asking one question, and that is, when will X be done? What's a clever way of asking that question as a project manager?
It's very important to have a meeting with the team, with the colleagues, and to ask for their honest response. When do you think it's gonna be done? Because I am not a developer or a designer or a tester, so we need to have a meeting, and it all comes down to estimations. You can't say something for sure or 100% it will be delivered by this Friday, but with experience, you can have some rough estimations. It all comes down with times, and based on prior experience, you can plan and see if the things will be delivered in time or not.
Do you like Scrum or Kanban?
I would say for the startup things, Kanban would
Yeah.
work best, like brick by brick. Scrum is for more mature teams that are ready for it, but it's not perfect. It does not go by the book all the time. It's more like a hybrid thing. It really depends of the project, and honestly it doesn't really go by the book. You just adapt for the company, for the team, and see what fits for the A company will not necessarily work for the B or C.
I do love Kanban, especially as you mentioned startups. I would never recommend startups go Scrum. And like my biggest issue with Scrum is estimations, because we talked about estimating, and as a project manager, you are in charge of that. You're in charge of making sure they are respected, they are delivered on time. And my problem to begin with, especially when you're talking about Scrum, is how do you even estimate things? Like a lot of people use story points, this complex definition of complexity, or interesting, weird, extensible, flexible definition, I would say. And then other companies using Scrum, they use man days, right? Where they just say, okay, fuck it, this is gonna be this many man days, and we'll add a buffer on top. So you have two, like one notion which is a bit more rigid, a bit more fixed, which is man days. We'll throw a buffer on top so that we don't burn ourselves. The other one, which is flexible, but my most annoying part of it is every company has a very different definition of what that means. Some say it means this many days between, like some say it has this range, the others say it will have this range. Some say we, like, there are companies which don't even use Fibonacci for story points. It's like everything is, it's a mess.
It all depends on the company. For instance, this week we're going to work on this and that. Then you have the meetings. What has been done yesterday? What do we plan to do today? What are some road blockers and so on and so forth? So don't really go down deep in theory. Let's use the Fibonacci sequence and see how many points are you going to this and that. Don't do that. Just
Do you prefer man days or story points?
no, I would like to go with more simple, like for instance what we work on this week,
Yeah.
what has been done and what can we also prioritize things. If something more important has come up, we'll postpone it and so on. So we like to go in the simple way and a simple approach because these things works. We don't really go in theory deep
Yeah,
down.
but you need to have, especially as a project manager, you need to have like a measurement unit, which is more or less precise, because that's what you're going to end up selling to the client. Like you go to the client, you say it's going to take this between this and that
This amount,
range.
like how many days?
True, true.
Yeah,
And
in this.
given that measurement, you then go back to the team and say, hey, we need to have this feature done by this period. Let's now use our way of working, whether it's Scrum or Kanban, and let's estimate. And then based on those estimations, you try to respect them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you can't respect something which you don't have a definition of in the first place. If you say something is going to take up to 3 days and it takes
That needs
two,
to be.
like, you know, at least the time frame, right? But if something takes between 2 and 7 days or 2 and 5 days, and you do it in 2 days, but you can also do it in 5 days, then, and in a lot of the cases it's not even that, it's actually more than that. And it also depends on the maturity of the team. And like every team has that fucking guy who's gonna positively estimate absolutely everything. He just wants to be the guy that on paper seems like he can deliver the most amount of it, and then he fucks up, then he delivers that but way slower, not respecting the deadline which he gave. And I'm like, okay, why did you estimate it that way? When you, maybe it's a surprise along the way, like you weren't expecting something, and that's okay, I would say. But when it happens regularly that you estimate something positively, like that's one problem. When you positively or negatively estimate things, then you have either, like, you, in both cases you have a false reality, you have a false reality of what you're estimating. The other problem is, what is the range we're going for?
It's very important to estimate things because it puts responsibility on the
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
So people are not slacking the whole day. If you say if it's gonna take 3 days, and what you did the rest of the week. So it puts the responsibility on people's shoulder, and you need to know what the team is working on. So yeah, it's important thing to, but also you need to have a flexible approach because things don't always go according to the plan. As long as you inform the stakeholder that this cannot be done and you motivate why, you provide some solid arguments of why it cannot be done, at least you've gained some experience for the past. But it's always nice to have some buffer time or buffer zone. Just put 1 or 2 days extra, something happen, so you deliver in time the project.
On estimations, what's your opinion of micromanagement, and in what circumstances is that maybe justified slash makes sense?
I personally don't like the micromanagement. If you have to micromanage a person, then you have to let him go. Uh, why need why it can be justified if, for instance, a person is put on the performance improvement plan or something? You need to. I will just rephrase it. You need to give him more time and more attention to figure out what doesn't work well. But we're all mature person, we need to behave properly and to be responsible. But micromanagement uh, is not okay. Look, if we agreed that, for instance, this quarter we need to do this, and if you're not able to follow up on your commitments, then we just need to let you go,
Yeah.
because we're not on the same page. So we all come to work for one reason. There's some things to be done. You're getting paid to do this. So, but if you have to micromanage someone, let's say that this is a red flag that needs to be taken care of. But I think also it comes down to the personality, because management style can be different. I don't see how micromanagement can benefit the whole team, because they'll feel under pressure, and you can't deliver outstanding results that you have to monitor someone like the big brother is watching you
Yeah.
when you clock in, clock out, if you left 1 hour early. Look, I can totally understand. For instance, a person X left early today, but he will compensate it tomorrow, where we have an outside life beside the job, have some things to take care of. Uh, as long as the job is done, I don't see how the micromanagement can benefit um, the project or the company. So I would stay away from this.
Yeah, makes sense. You mentioned this idea of performance. If somebody doesn't perform well enough, then we have to let them go. And you rather focus on that than to micromanage them because that's not efficient, not benefiting. On that, on performance, how do you evaluate performance? Because I was speaking the other day with a engineering manager, and he told me that he tried so many things to evaluate performance, and he couldn't come to an exact conclusion on how do you measure performance, especially when it comes to developers. Is that story points delivered? Is that lines of code written? Is that like what is performance in your opinion? And is it the same for everyone? Is it maybe different across the team? Like what is performance and what does make a team highly efficient and performant versus a team which is mediocre and slowly moving?
I think the performance review needs to be divided in some parts. For instance, a self assessment form. What went well? What was bad? What do you think can be improved? This has to be completed by each individual employee. Uh, the second part should be by the direct manager, the team lead, for instance, because you have different teams like the devs, the QA, the design team, and the marketing team. So each department has its own manager. They need to provide the direct feedback. How is he dealing with his teammates? Is he a team player? Does he deliver the tasks on time? Attendance also is a very important part. Discipline. Uh, yeah, and then the last part, I would say that this needs to be a direct conversation with a person, because if you're not happy with the performance of an employee, then you need to let him know about this ahead of a time, so you really give him the chance and opportunity to improve. Not out of the blue, you just come to him and say
But
that
what is performance in your idea in the first place? Because you need to have a standard of what a performant person looks like in this team. And if they don't meet this criteria, then you fire them or whatever.
well, yeah, but there is a plan for every employee that they have to complete.
Because some managers will strictly base their performance review on story points. Okay, how many story points per sprint is this person delivering? And that's it. And I wouldn't necessarily agree with that metric because that is not a clear indicator of performance. Like I would say there's multiple metrics combined which communicates performance review of that person. And I was wondering what's your way of saying this is a performant person slash this is a performant team through my experience of working with different teams, and this is what makes a great team actually.
I would look at this from a different angle. Does he contribute to the team success overall or not? Maybe this quarter he showed some weakness side, but after a nice talk with him, he improved and showed some significant successes in the next quarter. You need to talk to other team members and see if they get along with him, if he contributes, if he's not a toxic person overall. So you need to look at this from different angles, but not to look how many lines of codes we still. I don't see this as the right metric to evaluate the performance of. Because even the AI changed a lot how the AI is writing code. The person behind it is like the architect, or he's just reviewing it and proposing solutions. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, when it comes to teams in particular, I was wondering how do you look for improving the team overall? How do you look to improve the process in the team, in the company? Do you value retrospectives? Maybe are retrospectives an actual practical thing when it comes to, because you have these ceremonies in like Scrum, you have retrospectives at the end of the sprint, and everyone kind of shares their opinion and whatnot. Are those practical actually, or a lot of the times they just result in a bunch of people just saying they agree among themselves, but nobody really is sharing like pain points?
You see, the retro meetings are very important as long as the team is being sincere, honest, and transparent, and they really tell what went wrong and what can be improved. But if you do this just for the mark, just because we have to follow the protocol, it doesn't help in any way. Uh, Actually, I don't believe more meetings is going to solve it. Uh, if my presence in a meeting is not gonna add some value, I'm not going to that meeting. You have to go to the meetings and join the meetings that are relevant, where you're going to contribute, and just to have more meetings to talk about what we're gonna do next meeting is very unproductive, and you're just wasting. It's a waste of time and the company's money. So less is more in this case.
Yeah. I mean, as a manager, I'm sure your life is a lot of meetings. Do you like meetings? And what's your opinion of meetings where you have 30 plus people? Everybody has their cameras off, and there's one guy or two guys talking, and everyone else is just participating in the so-called cocktail effect, where they just react when they hear their name.
Well, look, the good part is that I work from the office, and I really love working from the office. And our meetings are usually from it's composed from not so many people, the one that are relevant for that specific meeting. Uh, and we're trying to not to have them for a very long period of time. As soon as all the points are discussed, we're closing the meeting. We have an actionable plan, and then next time we discuss what went well, what went bad, and what can be improved. So
Are you an advocate of like going to the office, hybrid, or do you allow remote work in your company,
in
your team?
our specific case is work from the office. I believe in work from office because look, in some instances that I've seen, the person might be active or online, but he's not joining the calls, or he does not respond. It's like, come on, man, you're at work. You need to be available, not to do your own business during working hours. So also, while working from office, you can solve a problem in 5 minutes. You just come to the person's desk, you discuss the problem, and that's it.
Yeah, but don't you suffer from, like, I personally see, yeah, there's this aspect that you cannot tell if the person is actually working or if they're minding their own business during the working hours. But at the same time, if you take office, especially the problem we have in Chisinau, where you're like a part-time taxi driver for like 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on where you catch the traffic. You need to fight for the parking lot, and then once you make it to the office, you you're distract like you can be in an environment where you are distracted a lot unless you have some good headphones with noise canceling. It's easy to be distracted. Hey, let's go drink some coffee, let's go talk about some shit. Like I guess I'm more of a introvert person where I like to just be isolated and do my thing, and then say, hey, I've done this, what's next for me, instead of just being bothered. And it's hard to focus and concentrate. Like I'm leaning towards that. At the same time, office builds trust, office builds cohesion. You, like, if you have, for instance, a problem you want to discuss, an architecture you want to debate, Like things like that, Office does way better instead of just joining a call and everyone is doing some broken phone communication. People don't understand each other, and then the meeting ends, and then you don't have a clear resolution what happened. I would say there's advantages, pros and cons, but
I think it just depends on the
yeah.
person. For instance, people who got, especially after the COVID started, lots of people got used to remote work and they just don't want to go back to the office. And but the reality, if they lost their current job, I think they need to make some negotiation. And if the employer is saying that, hey, you need at least to combine like 3 days in office and two from
is that
remote.
is that for like people who maybe lack self-discipline? Because I know a lot of people, it's like with the gym. Like when you go to the gym by yourself, a lot of the people don't, like, they lack the motivation to push themselves and actually go every, I don't know, 3 days or 4 days a week, and they need to pay a personal trainer so that that is the motivation for them, that they show up and they come there. So the office is kind of like the same. Like if you know that you need to be present in the office at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m., because that's when you clock in and that's when your time starts and that's when you have the offline meetings and whatnot, then that's kind of motivating you. And whether you like to wake up or not, you kind of have to. Uh, but at the same time, if you do have the discipline and you can manage your time properly,
It's all about
does it make
output.
sense for you to go this route?
I think in IT, uh, we don't really measure the time, but the outputs and the results. Like if you're happy with that specific employee who always deliver in time and quality of work, you don't really care. But it also depends on the politics of the company. It's like if everyone is working, is office based, and it's the same politics for everyone. Or, but it also depends, I guess, how do you negotiate your employment contract?
Yeah, but the advantage, for example, for me when I'm doing some remote stuff, I can, for example, either do some work during the weekend and then just push it during the workday, and that way I compensate, I work ahead, because I know that, for example, this week I'll have to do manage some stuff during the working hours, which would have been otherwise impossible because I would have been at the office in the city center, for example, and it's hard to manage everything or get anything done, even move your car during like the day, or especially in the evening during in the city center. And that gives me like flexibility. I'm doing some work prior because I know I'm going to be busy during the week or during the day. At the same time, it might also be the case that, let's say, I didn't sleep very well. I wake up a bit earlier, I finish a bit earlier. If you do that in the office, you can't really do that, because if you, like, you can't show up at the office at 5 a.m. when you woke up and you couldn't sleep, right? You need to show up with everyone else. And you also need to leave with everyone else. Otherwise, it's going to show that you are kind of slacking, that you have to do something urgent and you'll need to compensate later. So, in that sense, I see a way of like being more flexible if you work remotely. At the same time, communication suffers, self-discipline suffers. Like people lack that, and if you're a person who lacks self-discipline, then as a result, the deliverables might suffer.
But as far as I noticed the last time, people are starting to return back.
Again, this is like it goes back to the thing we talked about leverage and the upper hand, right? So if you're a company, like more or less the same amount of employers remained on the market. Some of them went away, others showed up on the arena, but more or less the same amount of job, let's say job, like employers in the sense. But the jobs, the amount of jobs, more or less the same. Maybe a few more jobs were created, but there's more engineers. And when you have the supply demand crisis, where you have more engineers, then engineers kind of need employers. And employers can say, okay, fuck you, I'm gonna screw you over.
You're coming
Actually,
back to
you're
the.
coming back. Actually, you're gonna get paid less, and actually, you're gonna do more. And also, you're gonna get paid less because all of a sudden you cost cheaper because of AI. So you can just say that. And the best part about that is if a bunch of people disagree, there will always be this lowest bidder, right? There will always be a person who will agree to that because of job security, because they have a family to feed, a loan to pay for, and whatnot. So it's something like that. And I've noticed this shift in especially with Elon Musk. Like, remember I don't know if you remember the scandal when like he wrote a letter to everyone, like, if you're not showing to the office,
We expect everyone to
yeah, we
spend at
expect
least.
everyone, blah blah
Yeah,
blah,
yeah.
right after COVID, to show up to the office, otherwise you're fired. And if you don't agree, you don't come to the office, you're automatically fired or something like that. So I get where he's coming from. He's like the definition of 0% noise, 100% output. And if you're not that kind of guy, then it's gonna be tough to work with that for that person, basically. At the same time, like, taking my situation, I wouldn't imagine to work in the office because it's just gonna take me 2 hours a day to make it there and back. And then if I have to solve anything during that day, I cannot work overtime. I cannot like stay in the office until 9 p.m. because I had to manage some business during 12 a.m. or 1 p.m. And it's a bit tough, and it just gives me more flexibility. And as long as I, as you said, manage to put out the work, business is happy, client is happy, we deliver on time, then who cares whether I did take a few hours during the day if I managed to complete everything according to the deadlines.
As long as you're a good performer, no,
Yeah,
no one's
yeah.
gonna raise a question. But
Because the problem with the office, what I've seen when I used to work in the office is, you, like, especially on Fridays, you could almost feel that in the air. It's like 3 4 p.m.
in the
And
afternoon,
you already see people fucking wasting their time on YouTube, watching tutorials, fucking brain rot stuff, just because they're waiting for the time to pass so they can clock out in time. And that, in my opinion, is not efficient.
so what needs to be changed?
I guess if I were to be a business owner, company owner, I'd probably, like, I am, you could say, a little bit of entrepreneur myself. I have people working for making sure this podcast is happening. And I don't impose any come to the office to this location. Like, everything is remote in my case, right? I just approve of stuff. And as long as stuff is delivered on time, I don't care what they do. So I am a strong believer in that. But there's one exception and key component to that. You need to have 100% trust in that person. As long as you trust that person and you build a good enough trust, you trust that they have your six, they have your back, and you trust that no matter what happens, they keep their word, and you can almost blindly trust their result. You trust that if you are away for a week, that stuff is going to be delivered, because I trust that that person is not only competent enough, but also disciplined enough to take that matter into his hand and actually have my ass covered. If you don't have that, and if you have people which treat, like, the problem with companies, like when companies hire, they pretend or expect people that they will have the same amount of vision and belief in the product, which is not true in a lot of the cases. Like, a lot of the times you have people that just do a job, right? Came in, it's 9 a.m., and then it's 6 a.m., sorry, 6 p.m., they leave. We'll do it tomorrow. We don't care. It's not like, okay, time's over. Whatever. We'll do it tomorrow. If it exceeds one extra day, who cares? And you have visionaries. You have people that no matter what, they'll deliver on time. If you work or happen to work with those kind of people, and going back to Telegram, why they are successful, and it's not a lot of them, is because every one of them has gotten their back, and every one of them is exactly where it needs to be. Uh, yeah, I would say when you have bloat and people just doing a job, then you can't really enforce it other for other means than making sure they go to the office,
There are
because
some,
that's what makes
yeah,
them disciplined.
there are some facts, but realities that you need to accept, and at least you need to find that 5% of top performance, keep them in the company, keep them happy, give them nice projects that they are happy to work on. And going back, everything is built on trust and communication, and this is built over time. So you can't really rush these things. It
The
either
other thing
happens
is,
organically or not.
the other thing is the people that value their contribution and they think it's a waste of time for them to just show up for the sake of showing up, most likely will come and be upfront. Look, I don't want to fucking waste my time. I think this is inefficient. You either allow me to work from home because I can just deliver on my work and my promises, or I'm just leaving for a company who will allow me to do that. And those are the high performance. And on the flip side, the people who don't give a fuck in the first place, they'll just happily oblige, happily show up on the office, waste their time there, clock in, clock out, and that's it. So yeah, it's a delicate balance. How you solve that, I don't know. Like you have people that just can't have like they can't handle their shit, their discipline, and you kind of need to force them on like you need to force that on them. Although I would argue that that was a wrong decision to hire them in the first place because they're not disciplined. But yeah,
We're
it's
coming to work. It's not a kindergarten. If you have to babysit someone, maybe he's not in the right place, the right position. So we have to let this person go.
no. But why would you like if you think about it, right? You're an entrepreneur. You have a startup. You quickly realize you don't have enough hands to sustain your project. You need to land on the market quickly. You need people. You start hiring people. Why would you spend an extra 10 to 15K grand a month to rent some space so that you can have people who can't fucking manage their self discipline when you could save that money and actually pay like two or three developers instead? Like logistically, it doesn't make sense to me even in that sense. Like if you were to think about logistics, you can maybe spend a bit more time to filter out bad apples and look for people you can actually trust. Maybe hire, let's say, not seniors, but hire more people that can be molded, that you can grow over time instead of spending the money in the wrong place. Because having an office is costly, right? You need to have an office, you need to have people taking care of it, an office manager, like all kinds of crazy shit besides the office. Besides, so all you're doing all of this effort just to make sure people stay disciplined because they lack self-discipline.
Yeah, it just depends on the history of a company. If it's always been done like that, it will continue. But we never know how things will evolve. Maybe we'll even move to 4 days per week
I
working.
see
You see?
countries
There are
taking that.
countries
Yeah, yeah.
who do this. We never know what's gonna happen in 3 or 5 years. We just need to be flexible and accept that not all the companies operate at the same level, at the same mentality. We just need to accept it, and you are welcome to leave or to search for your happiness in other parts if you don't align with a company's interest or with a company's philosophy. So you always have a choice to go and look somewhere else or to work remotely. It's just all a matter of choice.
We talked about Telegram, how efficient and lean they are. I was wondering, in your opinion and through your experience, what makes a company inefficient, bloated, and maybe wasteful? Because the problem with like you have a startup, it grows. Then once it grows, you kind of can't operate in the same way. You need to introduce bureaucracy, systems, processes, so that it continues to work in an efficient way, kind of. So, what are some bureaucracies you hate slash you see inefficiencies in the companies?
It just depends from what angle you look at it, because sometimes bureaucracy is good to have like lots of papers, of lots of layers of communication, uh, in order to filter what information gets to the top. However, what makes or break a company is its people, because in some context, at the same level that you operated 2 or 3 years ago is not anymore relevant for the current year. Or for instance, you need to change the approach, or you have less projects, when you need to cut the costs, the expenses. I think it all comes down to people. If So you need to find a way to keep only the best and talented and exceptional people in the company. uh, so yeah.
Obviously, you can't change everything about it. Some bureaucracy is just inevitable, and I've experienced it myself. Like you join a startup, you really love it, and then more people come and join, more people come and join, and then you see that one team becomes five teams. Then you have managers, then you have managers over managers, and then you have a bunch of other people managing things. You quickly realize that if you're a person that's part of the very bottom, if you want to if you want your request to make it up to the top, bubble it up somehow, you need to go through a lot of layers, a lot of gatekeeping, and you quickly realize, fuck it, I'll just give up. It just doesn't make sense to change anything because it's too slow. So, like, what kills a company in that sense? And on that same note, when it comes to handling or dealing with stakeholders slash new clients, projects, businesses, and whatnot, what usually kills a project? Is it a bad software development team? Is it bad management? Or is it maybe miscommunication between the like stakeholders slash projects and the company management?
Uh, it's definitely miscommunication, lack of alignment. If we are not all on the same page, or if we are taking way too much on our shoulders, like if you promise someone and you can deliver, but you just hope that somehow it's gonna work in the end. No, it's sorry, just doesn't work this way. Of course, bad management is comes to the root of it. If you it's like we are all soldiers in a company. So if you've got a bad general, so guess what's gonna happen with that specific campaign?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all should be built on trust, transparency, honesty, and if something doesn't work out, it needs to be communicated early on, and we need to tackle the problems straight from the beginning, so we don't end with a unfinished project or a lost client.
Maybe let's switch gears a little bit. um, I'm actually happy we haven't talked about AI for so long, because it's impossible not to attend a social event, meeting, keynote, and not hear people vomit AI left and right. So, on that, let's open the Pandora box. I was wondering, has like let's start first with like from the HR slash job market perspective. Has AI brought a negative contribution to that? Are people losing slash lost their jobs due to that? And what does the future job market look like uh, with the evolution of AI and whatnot?
AI is definitely changing the way we work. I would say it's even stealing jobs, eliminating jobs like routine job, manual work, repetitive tasks that can be done in couple of minutes by an AI tool. It's gonna definitely change the way we operate, the speed that we work on, and the smart person will become even smarter and more efficient if he knows how to use AI properly. We can't ignore the fact that lots of people uh, lose their job due to the AI impact. Just imagine the data entry job, the manual QA, who is going to hire like a junior develop um, to create a landing page or a website when you have a V0 or something that is doing this in like a couple of minutes and so on. So we have to admit that this is a fact. Um, our focus is uh, to adapt to it, to learn new skills because AI is already coming for us. Might be a bubble, we don't know. It might be. We'll see it. The time will show to us everything in couple of years, but we're living in present, so we need to adapt to the current reality. Um, and yeah, and we need to be relevant no matter in what position and what job. You still need to provide and add value, because the moment when you start to feel that you're not contributing anymore is the time that something is burning.
Yeah, I'm wondering on that note of people losing their jobs and AI and whatnot. Are you a person who's the opinion of I can do more with the same people because of that, or I can do the same but with less people? Let's go in and fire a bunch of people.
I think it all comes down to the economical side, whether we can still keep the same amount of people that we operated like 1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah, but they have this, okay, I've been doing this for since forever, since I was hired, and I'm comfortable. And a lot of people don't like changing that comfort zone, right?
You need to update, or better said, to upgrade. The same way we upgrade the soft on our phones, you need to upgrade and learn new skills, something that you can deliver more in less time to be more productive. But if you are refusing to change, if you're fighting to it, you're not gonna last long, because someone else is hungrier than you,
Yeah.
and yeah, he will be on the way to get your job. That's it's cruel, but it's reality.
So is AI coming out for our jobs more and more in the future? Like, what's your, let's say, prediction slash forecast on the next 5 years? What's the job market looking like?
I think lots of jobs will be on automation mode, but we still need to have a human side who is going to control, like let's call it the architects behind it, or it will change the jobs to be more like prompt engineers. That's how I see.
But my
It's
problem with that is, how do you become an architect if you weren't an engineer who understands the concepts in the first place? Because how did we get to this? Like, how does one become an architect? If you take a person who's an engineer, he went through a lot of engineering himself, he wrote different kinds of applications, hit different kinds of problems and whatnot, and then he slowly kind of moved in the background, and now he's an architect. He helps teams. He's a consultant at some company. He helps the company reshape their product, their design, their architecture. Like, that's how we viewed architects historically speaking. And now with AI, there's this idea of architects. I even see a lot of ads on Facebook, at least, where they try to push this idea of, nowadays software engineering is dead, you should focus on being an architect. My question is, how do you become an architect if you haven't solved problems to begin with?
you can't just jump to the last level if
But
you
that's
passed all
that's
the
the
layers.
that's the gap that I'm seeing. I'm seeing people jumping from, I'm just picking up LLMs, ChatGPT, whatever your favorite LLM is, and they're just architects straight away. And the problem is, are you really an architect if you're just prompting your way into it and you haven't done the so-called manual work?
I don't believe so. You have to go through all layers. I mean, you have to
But
know the basics.
how are you going through the layers if people say that you no longer have to?
Well, that's really a good question. It's something. It's
It's like saying you need experience, but first, how do you fucking get experience
yeah,
to
like
get the job?
nobody
Like,
is
yeah,
hiring me, but you need the
correct,
experience.
correct.
So
That's
it's
the
back and
problem we're
forth.
having here. Like, you have people saying we will no longer need like the usual classical developers. We'll focus on architects. Question: okay, there are some architects. That's fair. You could say that they will continue to be architects. There are some good engineers that weren't architects. You could say that they'll focus less on what they did, on routine tasks, more on architecture. What about who's coming after us? They never were engineers. They maybe are looking into it, but it's hard for them to enter the bar because it's quite high. And how do they become architects?
That's an interesting question. Uh, we'll see, but I think we really need to be careful how we elaborate in the future the job description, what will be the job requirements, and this with the AI trend and all of these buzzwords. We need to understand the reality that this is relatively new. It will take some years for us to accommodate with it. It's like we don't really have that many specialists in our country. Like we all take this knowledge somewhere from abroad, either from US or from Europe, and afterwards it's coming to us. So how do you expect to hire someone who is ready to go for a live project if it's relatively new? So it's gonna take for us some time to adapt for it, and we need to be careful what we're looking for, because you don't want to hire an amateur who claims to be an expert in this if he doesn't have the basics in the background, because it's gonna be a failure and a waste of time and resources for both parts.
Yeah, the problem with like the reason why we lack architects in Moldova at least is because we're viewed as like some kind of China, some kind of I'll say this. I know it's not politically correct to say this, but we're viewed as some kind of banana country, right? Meaning you come in here, let's say you're from Germany, Switzerland, whatever, you come in here, you build your product for cheap, then you export your product abroad back to the homeland, you hire people there to maintain the product. That's how it, because if you hire people from there to build your product, it's going to take a lot longer to build a product, maybe not as high quality, and it's going to fucking burn for your budget. But you come in here, you build it quick, cheap, and then you move it there, you maintain it, and you attract more investments and whatnot. And in the process, what happens is we're just building the initial phase of the product. If we're talking about startups, we export that, move on to the next startup. That's kind of what we do. And that's mostly Eastern Europe. So it's Moldova, Romania,
You do
Ukraine.
lots of outsource
Correct.
outsource of
So
services.
the product never stays here. Typically the product, like rarely a product stays in Moldova. Typically it leaves the country, it goes back to the mainland. And like that's in the sense the problem with being an architect. Are you an architect of what exactly if you never truly stay to mature a project, but once the product is kind of reaching maturity, you ship it, you move it away to the mainland, you focus on the new baby born product, and you always iterate only enough to when the product reaches maturity, but then you hand it over to somebody else. So yeah, that's the problem I guess we have. Yeah, I don't know how to solve that problem. I guess it comes down to economics, to like whether or not we become part of EU and maybe we become more of an open market where we're more competitive. But until that point comes in, we're kind of viewed as cheap. Let me go hire those guys. They'll build it cheap, fast, and then I'll take it back and hire some Germans or whatever. So yeah, I guess I know it's not politically correct to say that, but that's kind of the ruthless reality.
Yeah, we'll see. Time will show.
Yeah, obviously keen and looking forward to see more startups stay here, because what that's going to mean is you build uh, products here, companies stay here, you have more jobs, people, you have growth possibilities. Like if you look at Crunchyroll, I think it's a really good example of a company who built most of the product here. It stayed here until very recently when they had to part ways. And yeah, unfortunate. Unfortunate, a lot of developers, or fortunately, maybe it's a growth for some of them, had to leave through other companies. But yeah, the job of a contractor is not like something new. I guess it's been in our blood since forever. We're just building stuff, moving it. We're kind of like China.
Yeah, maybe we need to learn how better to promote ourselves, our products, learn how to sell, how to market it well. So yeah, this is something that we need to work on.
That's why this podcast exists, to promote the best people of the country, starting from the country and then Eastern Europe and whatnot.
Yeah.
It,
Think globally, act locally, as they say.
it's very well said, actually. Yeah. Dude, every single time I invite somebody, it's like, here's the plan. I even told you the plan, like, we're going to do this many recordings, blah, blah, blah. But then you sit down, you start talking, and you're like, fuck, time's.
Goes off the script. The best conversations are always off the script.
No, it's the fact that it's not enough time. And I'm like, fuck, I need a version 2 with this guy. But since, yeah, I'm trying to maybe go to a closing a bit. So I was wondering, Besides telling people that they're fired, what's the hardest news you had to deliver as a manager?
When you fail a project and that you need to admit it, from the beginning it's harder, but you just get used to it. But as I said, firing someone is the toughest decision that you can communicate, because you understand that everyone has a family at home
Yeah,
and it directly impacts their lives. So yeah.
I would hate to be in that position. I'll just say that. I'm happier to be fired myself than to see somebody else being fired. Um, yeah. On that, maybe let's try and wrap up the work stuff. Was wondering, is there anything you do outside work? Do you have any hobbies, things you enjoy doing outside work?
Yeah, sure thing. Like volunteering in my free time, traveling, love to travel.
What are you volunteering?
At the Kaushan Law Center, I do that. And also, I like to do the career coaching and training in partnership with TechWill and some other organizations. I like going to colleges, to universities to meet new students and to give them some insights, some tips and tricks. And I always tell them, and if they have some questions, they can always address me on the LinkedIn, and I'll try to provide from my experience to see how I can be useful to them. So that's a hobby. That's what I do from my heart.
Yeah, it's a lot of dedication. I can tell you that it's not easy to give back to people. It takes motivation. Have to be prepared for that and all that.
But you know, as the saying goes, you have to not only take but also give something to the community to contribute in the way you can.
Yeah, at some point there was somebody who gave something to you, which motivated you to get into the industry. It was the case for me. So yeah, any chance I get to speak somewhere, make a tutorial, have a conversation, I'll take it, because you're bringing value and it's also fulfilling.
It might be helpful and useful to someone. So
Another weird question maybe is, do you have any fear?
fear of living a life that is not meaningful,
Mediocrity?
mediocrity, being just like everyone else, being ordinary, that's a fear. Not having enough time or the power to do the things that I really love to do. Uh, yeah, so the pursuit of, as they say, the pursuit of happiness, uh, to find to find the inside peace, and when you're looking back, to see something meaningful and to be proud and happy with the action that you did.
That's actually powerful enough, because yeah, I cannot say but subscribe to that 100%, because the worst thing you can do is be average, right? And you will never make a mistake if you don't do anything, right? So no matter what you do, it will fucking be wrong for some people. So just fucking go and do it anyway.
Yeah, we all make lots of mistakes. We fell down, but it's important always to move on, uh, to fail fast, move on, because the success is closer than you think. You just need to keep moving, have courage, and have faith in yourself.
Yeah, somebody said, if you keep showing up every fucking day, and if success happens randomly in some days, it's impossible to not catch the day when success reaches you as well. So it's very well said. I will subscribe to that 100%. And on that note, I will end with my final question, which is, what's your final piece of advice for anyone who's watching, whether that's something you want to encourage them on, or maybe that's a career advice towards being in management, because that seems like an easy job, but it definitely is not. And yeah, what's your final piece of advice for anyone who's watching?
Say nothing comes easy in life. Take full responsibility, full commitment to whatever you're doing. No one is coming to save you. You have to save yourself, to have faith, to have courage. And I wish you the best of luck.
This was an amazing discussion. I once again thank you for coming over. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and I'm looking forward for a version 2.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Really appreciate it.
And you didn't drink your wine.
Yeah, we still have time.
Still have wine and a version 2 for sure. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this was VUnstaged. Keep your mind open and your source unstaged. And do me one fucking favor, try to subscribe, because I know a lot of you aren't subscribed. And once again, thank you for watching this. Thank you for coming over.